go. All right, so I'm actually really excited about this one tonight,
Yay.
and I don't know why I suddenly got an echo, but anyway, so welcome everybody, welcome Joanne. She's been a long time person here. I don't know how many years you've been on here, a couple at least.
Yeah, a few years, I
Yeah.
think. You saved me.
So so
You really
she's a
did.
yoga instructor as well as what else do you do, Joanne?
Oh, I teach at a college. I teach business classes.
Cool.
I'm doing a mindfulness session with incoming 200 something incoming students.
Good. I saw that, yeah, you have an international business degree
I have
from
a yeah,
University of Denver, so
yeah,
she was a
University
West
of
person.
I
Yeah.
was there skiing, and my sister's still out there. I visit her a lot. So
So she's
anyway,
certified in several different kinds of yoga, which is kind
yeah.
of, I mean, there's some biomechanics that go through that kind of training. And of course, she has thousands of more hours of teaching in yoga than I do, which is exactly zero. So, well, I did one. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Think there's someone else who teaches yoga. I forget her
I
name.
thought it was, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
yeah. I know. Yeah, we know her name. I just can't think of it. All right. Well, let's just get started.
So anyway, that's enough of the glow up. We'll go
Yeah.
ahead and get
All right.
started.
Yeah. Like
And
this what I thought would be just a perspective to sort of take a look at. Um, Now it's not advancing because I don't know why it's not advancing.
just click anywhere on the
I
screen.
know it's not doing it.
Well, you
Uh,
can also roll your little mouse button too, or
yeah,
mouse
I
wheel.
know. Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm really having a problem here. Let me see more.
I'm going to go ahead for those of you who like to go
Oh,
and
I
like to
got
have
it.
your own
Okay.
copy. I'm going to go
So,
ahead and throw this into the chat too,
okay,
so that you have a PDF version of it.
copy of it. All right. So I thought we'd start out with skeletal and just kind of take a look at the skeletal and then move in very quickly to ligaments and tendons, talk about back muscles and core muscles, alignment and posture, maybe how that relates to some movement we might see or not see. Body discipline. There's a little video that we can show. And then I have a ton of resources in this, so you can always go to it and go deeper if you'd like, because the back is not, as simple as we might think. So let's start with the cervical spine and thoracic spine, lumbar and sacral coccyx. So this spine of ours is really broken into different regions, as most of us may know. And I'm the cervical up in the neck, thoracic more, along the rib cage and back of the heart. And then you move into the lower lumbar, the lower back. The sacral and coccyx, I wanted to highlight here that those are somewhat fused. They're fused at the base or the tailbone of your spine. And so these aren't technically joints, but they're nonetheless, they create this stability that helps support your posture and um, your your spine.
And
So
this
when we
pretty
look
board.
at flexion and extension, just imagine this little video as you watch the skeletal structure of the head nodding. And there's quite a bit of movement up in the neck. And then as you do more full forward and backward extension, notice how the vertebra they don't move as much, right? And that lower sacrum just is kind of that stable base. Do you guys want to see that again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I don't know what's going on with my computer. Here we go. Oh, that's full extension. But I thought it's kind of funny afterwards. But it kind of shows you forward and bending, right? Our students look like imagine them just looking down, right? So there's some couple of um, I don't know why this is just not advancing for me. Oh, here we go. Now, if we look at rotation, the torsion and twisting of the vertebra and the rib cage is part of that. So we notice even up in the thoracic area, up in the neck, there's more movement than say in the thoracic and more movement than say in the lumbar. And obviously that lower sacral used at the base of the spine connects with our hips. And Ilona actually did hips a few weeks ago, so we can reference her slides for that. But thought this was kind of cool to just see You know, you say, look down the hill. What do our students do? They turn their head because it's the easiest thing. It's the most mobile part of our spine. I don't know. I don't know why it doesn't. All right. So now when we think of lateral flexion, um, just take a look at, oh, sorry. Hold on a minute.
Way more Flanagan's Labor
I don't know why I hate these sounds.
Day sale.
Yeah, skip these. All right, here we go. So notice the lateral flexion, about 45-degree flexion left or right, give or take, depending on how flexible you are. But there's more movement through the thoracic than, say, the lower lumbar, right? So postural assessment here, just looking, going side flexion of the spine and how the vertebra just, tick, 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 tick. Lots of joints in there. And so here's a like honing in on that lower lumbar. And let me just show that again here. There. Here. There we go. So more 20% in the lumbar, 25%. So there's more flexion as you go up the spine. I just thought that was kind of cool to know. Some of you may already know this. I mean, we know this from our experience, right? Neck moves a lot easier. That's
Yeah,
a
but
lower
it's always
lumbar.
nice to put some numbers to it.
Yeah, yeah. Then that's a general, right? It's just a general. So of course, it's not just the spine. So you have to ask the question, what holds this spine up? What holds it up? Right? Let me see if I can move forward here because there we go. Should we show this, Chuck? You want to show this?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to show it? Okay, so now let's just look at that vertebral column. This is a couple of minutes here. You can listen in on it.
The spinal column or backbone is one of the most important parts of your body. It provides the main support, allowing you to stand upright, bend, and twist. 33 individual bones interlock with each other to form the spinal column. The vertebrae are numbered and divided into regions. C1 through C7 cervical vertebrae form your neck, support your head and neck, and allow you to nod and shake your head. T1 through T12 thoracic, that's the 12 vertebrae that are joined by ribs to form your rib cage. L1 through L5 lumbar, your 5 sturdy lumbar vertebrae carry most of the weight of your upper body and provide a stable center of gravity when you move. 5 vertebrae of the sacrum and 4 of the coccyx are fused. It makes up the back wall of your pelvis. Between each of the movable vertebrae is located the intervertebral disc. Intervertebral discs consist of a thick outer layer with a crisscrossing fibrous structure, annulus, that surrounds the soft, gel-like center, the nucleus. Discs function like shock-absorbing springs. The annulus pulls the vertebral bodies together against the elastic resistance of the gel-filled nucleus. When you bend, the nucleus acts like a ball bearing, allowing the vertebral bodies to roll over the incompressible gel. Each disc works in concert with 2 facet joints, forming a spinal motion segment. The biomechanical function of each pair of facet joints is to guide and limit the movement of the spinal motion segment. The surfaces of the joint are coated with cartilage that helps each joint move smoothly. Directly behind the discs, the ring-like vertebral bodies create a vertical tunnel called the spinal canal or neural canal. The spinal cord and spinal nerves pass through the spinal canal, which protects them from injury. The spinal cord is the major column of nerve tissue that is connected to the brain and serves as an information superhighway between the brain and the body. The nerves in your spinal cord branch off to form pairs of nerve roots that travel through the small openings between your vertebrae, intervertebral foramens.
And it's pretty involved, eh? It's kind of cool. So when you look at those nerve endings, when people get sciatic pain or numbness in the shoulder, it could be vertebra related, right? Um, Did anyone want to comment on that video about the shock absorbers, or I thought that was kind of cool to see. I thought of bumps and how we can be more efficient on our skis so we don't damage those joints.
And they're kind of important, aren't they? Especially in
Absorption,
the
right?
lumbar area
Right?
where there's,
Extension, absorption, all of
yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, you think of this vertebral column. Did someone want to comment? Okay. So what supports the spine, right? It can't just be on its own. It needs support, right? And so what we have here are muscles, tendons, and ligaments. And this is a little foggy here, but it was a picture that just shows the web of muscular, tendon, and ligament, the mapping of those tissues that are all around the spine to support the spine in some way and to bring things together. So all of this is, it moves downward, right? So we have the shoulders, all our muscles and tendons can move, body parts. So let's start with ligaments. So ligaments are, oops, I lost my video. Oh no, I lost my video. What do I do?
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead. You're
Uh,
just gonna have to talk through it.
well, no, I can't see my video. I can't see it at all. I don't know what I did. Hold on, hold on. I found it. Okay. So there's basically five main ligaments, and they're strong bands of fibrous connective tissues that connect bone to bone. And so we often think of our ACL, right, in our leg or in, these tendons are not intended to be over elastic, rather they provide stability to the joints. But exercises can improve the tissue surrounding those ligaments, and we can get into that. If you have a conversation, I would love to chat with you about it. This is coming from Harvard Health, all this data, and there's a link here that you can connect to. And so there's five ligaments of the spinal column: anterior, posterior, ligamentum flavum, interspinous, and supraspinous. And so I thought what we do is just take a look. We will take a look at one, but let's go back. All right, so you have ligaments connecting bone to bone, and then you have tendons that are fibrous cords that connect muscle to bone. And that allows for controlling movements, and it transmits the forces generated by the muscles. So muscles play a crucial role in supporting the spine to facilitate movement and maintain posture, but you have these tendons as well that connect these muscles to, right, the bone. So just food for thought. And this is some muscles that weave from the lumbar spine through the hip. And we'll talk about the psoas muscle in a bit, and a couple other things. When you think of the back muscles, this kind of blows me away because these muscles are just so intricate, right? And I'm not going to go over all of these, but back muscles are constantly holding us in place, right? So they help us move all parts of our body: our head, our neck, our shoulders, our arms, our legs. And they help us to work. They work together to help us bend, to help us twist, to turn our head, to extend our back, to flex. So, and they can also help us breathe, right? By expanding and contracting your chest when you breathe, because there's these other little muscles around the rib cage, and called intercostal muscles. So you can go to Cleveland to kind of get a little more detailed on that if you're interested. But the takeaway are they're back muscles are working together to help us move body parts and to help us twist and turn and bend. The muscles in the vertebral column serve as well to flex, rotate, and extend. And I like this picture because it just shows that layering. It's quite extensive, these muscles in the back. And if there's any like pathology, like contraindications, things that are compromised components in the spine, if people like have a disc problem or a bone problem or a ligament problem, or if their alignment is off, their posture is back, other muscles will have to work harder to compensate. And so you can just kind of maybe in your mind think of situations where you're sore or whatever, and other muscles are going to take over. Okay.
Or you pull one of those muscles and
Yeah,
all
or
of a
you
sudden,
pull,
you pull one of those muscles and all of a sudden your whole back goes like this,
yeah,
and you're
huh?
like, oh my God, what the hell
Yeah,
just happened? And that's your body, because it's very, very sensitive. Even though there's all this layering and this crazy, I mean, there's like all these fibers that are going in opposite directions and are crossing each other. But as soon as you compromise one of those little muscles in one spot, something's got to take over. And those of you who have experienced that in your past know exactly what I'm talking about. I am down, and my issue is down here in the sacroiliac joint. The sacrum is what she's been talking about, and that's part of the iliacs. That part, the iliacs come off of wing, and that joint there is the one I've been having issues with. But my God, when one of those little muscles that helps keep that piece together slips a little bit, all of that whole hip area, all the way, it feels like I broke my back, and because it
okay.
goes all the way up through the all the way up through the not thoracic, but the
They're asking.
bottom part of the lumbar section. It feels like I broke my lumbar. It feels like that's where the problem is, but it's actually lower.
Lower,
All
yeah.
that compensation has to happen. What happens? The body only goes in one direction. It can't expand. It goes this way.
Mm,
And so everything freezes and all those muscles come in. So it's really, really critical that we figure out ways that we can expand those muscles in some way, in some direction, and exercise and what Joanne does. And I mean, that's one of the big things about yoga, is being able to expand all of
there's
those pieces.
a lot of approaches, yeah. But, and
Oh,
also check like stress. People hold stress in their
yeah,
shoulders and it can arrive in any of these back muscles that can contribute to it as well.
yeah.
So
And
anyway,
that's it.
can we move on?
Yeah, well, I got one more thing. See
Okay.
down there, here, this is a one of, I mean, like, go back one more slide, because this is kind of a cruel piece. I
The
mean,
iliac.
we talked about, no, yeah, back one more than this. Because you showed all the psoas. See how
Yeah.
many of these muscles attach to these iliac ears that stick out? And
Yeah. So
that's the connection
right
between,
in,
that's why we're so positive on the pelvis piece, because that is where all these muscles attach to. And
we're
it's
going to
like,
talk about the psoas in a minute. So
yeah, we'll go to the psoas. That's a special group of muscles. But even these outer exterior pieces, and you're showing like oh, I forgot all the muscles all of a sudden, like your top of your leg, and you can see where some of the hamstrings at the bottom attach, and then you have the outer flexors. They all attach those iliacs in a way. So yeah, go ahead and go back forward. But I mean, I think these are very, very important pieces to show you, because you're showing the iliac crest.
right.
That's the bone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
your
what
bone, and that's technically the hip.
yeah, yeah. So before we get into the connection of lower lumbar back muscles with the lower part of the body, just thinking of the skeletal structure and then all of these back muscles, and we can't see back muscles in our guests, right? We don't know where they're weak or where they're strong. We may feel them in ourselves, but then you think of countering, when you're skiing and when you're balancing against big forces and turns, thighs and buttocks basically support and balance the upper body. Those are the big movers, those muscle groups through the thighs and buttocks. But countering takes place in the ball and socket joint where the femur meets the pelvic, but a smaller amount also occurs through the spinal column so that the shoulders can counter slightly more than the hips. So that upper body, we're always thinking stable upper body, stable upper body. What's helping us to keep a stable upper body? And those muscles in the back contribute, as well as core muscles. So let's just kind of go through some of the muscles along the spine that run up and down, like the erector spinae. So that's a group of muscles. They are responsible for maintaining an upright posture and controlling movements like bending and twisting. So if you take anything away, erector spinae controls movements of bending and twisting, right? So you can think of how we bend at the waist or how we twist in countering. And the transversospinalis muscles, those really control movements of rotation and extension. So you think of long leg, short leg, or as you rotate your legs under your body. So these muscles along the spine are really key in keeping strong, right? They're not the only muscles that can help support the spine, but to help support a stable upper body, it's definitely part of the equation. I think there's another picture here. When you look at the erector spine, it's really considered a tendon, but it's a group of muscles basically, but they refer to it as a tendon. So they stabilize the upper body, and they do connect down to the pelvic that Chuck was talking about. And when I was talking with Katie White, we were kind of exploring like movement analysis about what we might see a skier look like, because we can't see these muscles, right? So if there's weak erector spinae, there are other muscles may compensate. Like are the glutes taking over, those stronger legs? Because glutes are the largest muscle in the body. Is the core strong enough to hold up that spine? So she gave me this picture, like she said, just imagine someone going over a bump and they're like they collapse at the waist. She said it could be weak stomach muscles, it could be weak back muscles. You can have a conversation with your guest about it. Maybe there's an excessive anterior pelvic tilt because of the lumbar structure. So it's kind of interesting. You say, well, we can't see these muscles, right? But they do work together. These erector spinae, these ones that run laterally, they work with your glutes to maintain a stable posture. And of course, the stomach muscles have to be part of the equation to stabilize the spine. Though these are not directly part of the spine, the abdominal muscles, including rectus abdominis, obliques, they're essential for your stability of your spine and core strength, of course. So they work in conjunction with the back muscles to support our spine in various activities. And that makes sense. We're always thinking, draw the core in, engage the core. I mean, I remember when I was studying for level 2, it was just like, draw that core in. I wasn't even thinking of the back muscles. I'm so focused on core muscles. I wasn't even thinking of back muscles. And I do back strengtheners in yoga, these, bow and, just all these things to strengthen your back. And this kind of makes sense now. It makes more sense to me, how both can support a stable upper body in skiing. So, this US ski and snowboard talks about prime movers, right? While skiing involves the whole body, specific muscles in the lower body are considered those prime movements, the legs, the thighs, the feet, muscles like the glutes, but they are also attached to hips and pelvic. So are hips and pelvic part of the upper body? This is a snapshot of Carol Levine. It comes from Ron Lemaster's Ultimate Skiing, which is Alignment and Stance, page 62, if you want to look it up and read more. It talked about lower back posture. And I'm just going to read this quote because I took it right from the book. Much of our ability to move smoothly through the turn and terrain comes from compliance and strength of the mid-body, often called the core. Hips and lower back must be able to flex and twist easily while stabilizing everything above. Otherwise, your legs and upper body can't act independently. Your legs can't manipulate the skis with much facility, and a steadiness of your upper body as a counterweight that applies towards the proper spot on the skis could be jeopardized. So yeah, you think she's using her core and her back here to keep that spine stable through the turn? And notice it says in the caption down here, the skier's lower back should be slightly rounded and the pelvic neutral in the sagittal plane. So I looked at this and I'm thinking, okay, I see that spine is casually rounded, and then she goes through the turn. And in the middle, this picture right in the middle, it looks like, was she really bending at the hips? Like, is it too much? Or maybe that's extension of the leg, and she's moving her body in the turn or through the turn. So she's repositioning. So yeah, there's movement of the upper body to some degree, but it's stable nonetheless. So Chuck, I think we were gonna transition here to talk about, oh, so it's gonna just, does anyone have any comments about this before we
You got
go
any
to
questions at the moment?
questions?
Or is this just like,
No, this is really interesting.
Yeah,
What
it's,
what does
it's,
pelvis neutral in the sagittal plane mean?
so neutral pelvic. So I think Ilona referred to this. We're going to talk about it. It's in another picture. Can you hold that thought, and we'll swing back to what a neutral pelvis is.
I mean, I guess I know what a neutral pelvis is, but I'm looking at her pelvis. I mean, basically her butt, how much bend she has. Seems like there's a lot going on there. It's hard
Yeah.
to see how that's neutral, but I mean, like, especially this picture is a really different position, than either of the ones around it. She's really twisting. So anyway, it's just
Countering, yeah.
I understand neutral means, you're not like arching your back, or you're not rounding your back. You have that sort of tucked in pubic bone. But it was
Yeah.
just interesting to see this, because I'm like, man, there's a lot going on there to have a neutral pelvis, but maybe you do.
Yeah, and maybe there's subtle movement, but there's that back is definitely, and core must be separating. We're gonna talk about the virtual bump, right, Chuck?
yeah,
All
we'll
right,
talk about the virtual bump.
because that relates to this. So see how Chuck drew in lines here? There's still that nice gentle roundness to that lower back.
She tries to maintain it all the way through every turn, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of counter to, how the spine is set up. We have the spine set up this way. And one of the things I'm going to kind of bring up later is, why is the spine bent in these kind of arch shapes?
Yeah.
And the big reason why is because we have the lumbar as kind of comes inside the body for the support piece, because there's really nothing between the pelvis and the rib cage at that point. So that's why the body actually makes the arch come in. And then this arch up here is where all the, our chest cavity is. And this is actually for protection, to allow us to have like our critical organs are tucked up underneath our rib cage, and we have to make room for that. But this arch support, we got a double arches going on, really makes the spine strong. Because if it was just straight, it'd be really easy to compromise it by bending one way or the other.
And there's some extension and flexion and movement through that end of the turn as she engages the skis more and transitions.
So go ahead and reshare again, and we'll go back. But that's really the key, is when we start talking about neutral pelvic area or neutral hips, we don't have, we're not bending them too far under or rotating them too far under, or we're sticking our butt out. Reason why she's doing that, well, she's in a bunch bumps, which means she has to have a greater range of motion. So by having a neutral or slightly turned hip, that allows her to be able to bring her knees up more. It gives her a greater range of motion. But at no time does she ever straighten up like this and go back to a neutral spine. She's always kind of like in this engaged piece where all the core muscles, both back and front, are all working together to be able to support all the pressures that are building and releasing. Does that make sense, Laura? Does that help? But she's going to go, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk about this a little bit later, and she's
Yeah.
got this covered too. So
Okay. So I just thought I'd throw this picture in, because now look, see the flexion in the legs, and his spine is, you can imagine it's round. But think of the back and the core engagement here, things we really can't see as instructors as a skier moves lower body separate from a stable upper body. That's just a theoretical, like, just rhetoric comment to say, but he's upright. He's not really rounded through the shoulders. He's more rounded through the lower spine, in my in this picture, if you can imagine.
Yeah, that's Demelza clay, so it's really more of a she, but you
She, all right.
know.
No, there's a mustache. You sure? Okay. I
Sure.
don't know.
Oh, there we, go ahead, Rebecca.
All right. Oh,
Well, one of the things that I think maybe we
You got her
haven't
doctor in the
touched
house.
on is that the front and back, their muscles act and counteract. So
mm,
if you are working on the, abdominal muscles, then there's a response from the back muscles and vice
mhm.
versa. So when one muscle contracts, another one relaxes, and they act in conjunction with each other.
I'm so glad you brought that up because we were talking about that with the virtual bump and how, yeah, like we don't want our guests to like be holding their core in 100% of the time. They won't be able to breathe, right? There's that movement through a turn where you're engaging and releasing, right? We talked about that's I'm so glad you brought that up, that there's that counter. Yeah. So just another thing, it's Michaela, like, those movers, right? Those big movers of thighs and, legs and feet, with her legs moving under that stable upper body as she moves herself down as fast as she can through those gates. But she's relatively upright, that upper body. All right, here's the virtual bump. And the question becomes, strong erector spinae, those back muscles, core, things will engage or release, like and work in unity in some ways. So our students crumpling at the hips, through a turn. So Chuck, do you want to kind of talk about this? Because I don't want to screw it up. I'm
How,
getting familiar with
how
this.
many of you
Yeah.
guys are familiar with the virtual bump? And this is a Ron LeMaster thought,
Yep.
and it's been kind of
No.
picked up rather heavily by Tom Gelly.
Yeah. Because you can see the little stick figures of the spine, which
Yeah.
is actually aligned with the level of terrain. So this is the vertical, like looking sideways at a skier traveling down through a turn.
So the virtual bump actually refers to at the initiation into the apex. You're really kind of you're starting to go down the hill and accelerate. And then as you reach this kind of shaping into finish phase, this is where the virtual bump, you've kind of reached a trough and now you're starting to engage the skis and slow down, and then it kind of repeats itself. So we have this initiation into shaping, and I'm pointing with my little fingers, and I'm sure you guys can't see that, but it allows you in the shaping or initiation to shaping. There's not much things going on, but all the stuff is kind of happening at the bottom. So that's what Ron LeMaster was referring to. It's like you're going over bumps this way, but you're actually going like this.
So when I'm circling this here, can people see that? Like, see how it looks like that person's like more forward in this, but now look at Carol. I'm trying to get to Carol Levine now. I don't know how that works. I don't know how I can get back. There it is. Here it is. See, right here where, well, I don't know, your circle changed, but right in the middle, that picture in the middle, how her back looks like she's more flexed in the hips. That's kind of what I picked out. Am I accurate with that, Chuck?
Yeah, yeah, no,
That
one
part of
hundred
the
percent.
engagement of the skis, she's coming out of the turn.
It's also what he's also kind of showing there is that there is a movement with the base of support that moves forward and backwards. Moves
Mm,
forward
that's
through the finish phase, and then starts to move backward at the initiation into the new shaping phase. So the feet are always kind of like moving
back
this
and
way.
forth, yeah,
Okay.
swinging.
And the reason why is because honestly, when I think about the virtual bump, and I think this is very important, it's really about perceived pressure. We don't feel a whole lot of pressure at the top of the turn, so we don't have to resist a lot of pressure. So we align ourselves to that lack of pressure. But what we're doing is we're getting ready for the portion of the turn where we do feel a lot of pressure, and that is the bottom half of the turn, that shaping into the finish phase. And that's where we have to remain flexed and oppositional to the forces that we feel, which is where all the pressure is happening. So the virtual bump is also about this, pressure to not pressure, and pressure to not pressure. It's all perceived forces that we're resisting. And that might be pretty damn deep for some of us, but that's kind of how I view the virtual bump. And that's kind of how Ron Lemaster explains it.
So Chuck,
Yeah,
this is Kay.
yeah,
I'm um I'm just back from a clinic and for a different sport,
cool.
and the real thing, especially being a yogi, the real thing hear you saying, and
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, is in order to stay sort of centered and balanced, whenever you exert a lot of pressure in one direction, you have to counter it with muscle or whatever forces in the other direction to keep you centered. Is that accurate?
Yes, yes, in a way, yes. It depends on where the forces are coming from. So the forces at the top of the turn are really pulling us into the turn.
Right.
There's not a lot, I mean, gravity is pulling us into the turn, but what we're doing there is we're kind of releasing and then moving into the turn. Most of the forces are happen after the apex, where
Right.
gravity is suddenly was helping us at the top of the turn is now suddenly to not help us at the bottom of the turn. So now we have
And
a
so,
combined force of not only are we trying to arc a turn when the skis are really where the skis are pushing, or the snow's pushing against the skis, but now we have gravity that's helping the skis to pull against the snow. And that's what we mean kind of like through the virtual bump. So yes, we align to the pressure that we are getting, to the pressure that we feel. Does that make sense?
yeah, so the oppositional pressure or muscular control is really just countering what gravity is already pulling us so we stay stable.
Yes. Not only is it just gravity, but it's also the snow pushing against the skis,
Right.
which is compounded by the gravity at the end,
Right.
mostly we feel at the end of the turn. So yes, 100%. And it's not any different than with mountain biking, right? It's really easy to turn down the hill, but when we got to turn across the hill, that's where all the magic happens. We have to be able to uh, line our bodies
Counterbalance.
over the bike to make sure that we can have grip that's going to allow us to continue to keep turning because we're going to feel a lot of pressure. Any questions on that? Or is this again like,
Yeah, this Tom Gelly snapshot comes from a YouTube. It's an hour long conversation. This is just something about, being dynamic, but this is just a piece of it. He talks a lot about balance. Okay. All right. Should we move on?
move on? Yeah.
All right.
We'll have a question and more questions, I'm sure, at the end.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things I do want to mention is this psoas muscle, right? So there's very little that happens in our bodies that isn't affected in some way by this psoas major. The minor, I learned, this is new, is absent in approximately half the population. So the minor doesn't really share most of its attachments with the psoas major. So if anyone's talking psoas, it's probably psoas major. And you can see here where the psoas major is. So it plays a role in core stability, and it can affect, how your back feels, and leg and hip pain, or even breathing. The top of the psoas is connected to your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is connected to your rib cage. I feel like your rib cage is connected to but that whole psoas muscle moves, down through these hips and connects down here to your, like, top of the femur there. And yeah, so keeping a nice flexibility in the psoas, doing if you're laying down on your back and your knees go off to the left, you're actually stretching that psoas muscle. Lunges, right? So the psoas allows us to flex, right? Our knees can come up, right? Our hips flexors, part of the hip flexors there. So it does a lot, we're walking, you're using this muscle.
And it's an adductor too.
Yeah, yeah,
It moves,
yeah, kind of, you move your,
moves them in
Yeah.
and up.
yeah, so your
So
knees
as you're
come up.
using it, it wants to pull in and up.
Mm.
So,
So like if I have people who are in my class that ride bikes all the time, I need them to open up. And so we do things like put blocks underneath the lower sacrum and stretch the hip flexors in front. And then we do so that we can get a better range of motion through the hips and actually keep that psoas nice and stretched because it's connected to you can see how it's connected here. And the psoas major plays a major role in how lower spine, the pelvis and femur move or interact. So, when Ilona was talking about the anterior posterior pelvic tilt, it's supposed to say oppositional muscles, sorry, to the glutes. So, yeah, anyway, just something to think about if you're doing stretching, exercising about the psoas muscle. This video, I kind of like this video. This is beginner's posture and alignment. It's very quick, so I might have to play it twice. But I like these lines, and he does talk about stable upper body. So try and catch it and look at the alignment, and you'll see. I can play it twice.
Posture is all about trying to align our joints so that we can stand in the middle of our foot as much as possible. We want our ski to be able to slide and rotate across the snow with the least possible resistance. Now, the way I do that is by stacking my joints, flexing my ankles, my knees, and my hips, and I'll end up with a rough kind of lightning bolt shape from side on. So my upper body, my torso, and my shins are roughly at the same angle, and my hips stay above my feet. Because this would still be a lightning bolt, but because my hips are behind my feet, the tails the ski's going to catch, and they're not going to give me that control I need.
And not only that, you're straining some of the muscles in the back if you're leaning back, right? Oops. You want me to play that again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Posture is all about trying to align our joints so that we can stand in the middle of our foot as much as possible. We want our ski to be able to slide and rotate across the snow with the least possible resistance. Now, the way I do that is by stacking my joints, flexing my ankles, my knees, and my hips, and I'll end up with a rough kind of lightning bolt shape from side on. So my upper body, my torso, and my shins are roughly at the same angle, and my hips stay above my feet. Because this would still be a lightning bolt, but because my hips are behind my feet, the tails the ski's going to catch, and they're not going to give me that control I need.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it because this is kind of our guest, right? Beginner intermediate. Anyone want to talk about this, or you can go here it's a TikTok link here, or you can just go to the PowerPoint and play it again. Okay. So in the National Academy, they did this movement and dynamic stability for skiers and riders. And in this hour and 15-minute presentation, they talk about secondary stability, that vertical stability. And here's the neutral spine, right? Good posture, anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt. You're using different muscles. If you just stood and you kind of moved around, you can kind of just feel what your body's doing. And so he goes into talking about core stability, including how effective we can counter and rotate as we maintain balance. And then some exercises and things to build stability. I think there's more. Oops. Exercises, squats and hurdles and things that we can do to help stabilize or to, think of how our posture is. So there's a link to this that I put not in this slide, but another one if you were interested in listening to this guy at National Academy talk about movement and dynamic stability for skiing and riding. And this is the link. You can click on the arrow and it will take you through movement and dynamic stability. But these are some, you guys are all familiar with these exercises, I'm sure.
Yeah, every one of you do these, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
I can't do these lunges. I do deadlifts and other kinds of things, but
The inline lunges?
yeah, no, because my knees.
Yeah.
I do a little of them. I just don't do it to
I do them with a weight either above my head. I do them with a weight above my head, like
Okay.
holding either a bar up above my head or holding a dumbbell if I'm trying to do asymmetrical
Yeah,
lunges. Try to keep the core engaged and try to stay
right.
upright instead of, otherwise in your lunges you want to lean forward, and that's kind of defeats the purpose because now you're engaging muscles that you're not trying to target.
So if you went down like in a lunge, like in yoga, you have, your right foot forward, your left knee down or up, it doesn't matter. A lot of people, like you just said, want to lean forward and stretch that hip flexor right along the left leg. But
Right.
if you press that right heel down and try to slide it back, you engage the muscle groups, like you're scissoring your legs together. You can build core stability and you can build strength through those the muscles in and around the hips and what have you. So that's how I get into, when I do lunges, I do that. I'm more engaged in my lunges than just stretching.
I wanted to mention that a way to do the lunges also would be putting discs under your feet, and you do those lunges.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do the lunges with the discs, you're also engaging the abductors and the adductor muscles of the legs and the hip flexors.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
one of the that
you
that
pull
brings
it
up,
towards you. Is that what you mean, Ilona? I'm envisioning a disc under a foot, you pulling it towards you.
There are these exercise discs. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen them?
I'm thinking that they slide, right?
They slide,
Yeah.
and I find them very useful.
Mm.
yeah, I got something called flight disc, and it's got like little rollers on the bottom. And that was the thing I did on Friday, which was I actually put it up on one of those little steps, and then and I would go just a straight lunge back. It's a reverse lunge with weight above my head, and then yeah, do 16 times on each side, and then I do 5 sets, 5 or 6 sets. I actually do 6, but. And then another one that I do is I'll use the same thing, but I still step on one of those little steps, and then I will just go forward and backwards 8 times. And
Mm.
that one really is hard because you have to continually shift your balance. Because it's really, when you're going backwards, you're more balanced on the
Oh,
foot that's planted, but as you move forward, you're now more positioned on the foot that's unstable. And so you really have to balance over the top of it. And it's that kind of oppositional piece where you have to make those adjustments, and makes it really, really good dynamic exercise. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. I recommend anybody to give those a try.
and just by this is like a really good study, like when learning more about muscles in the back and the how important it is now, more important for me now to think about what we're doing to condition for skiing. It's not just about the legs. The last oh boy, what do I have here? Hold on. I don't know what I have here. Oh yeah, whatever. Oh, this is the whole thing. Yeah, that's that whole big hour and 15-minute presentation from National Academy. The last thing I really have to share before resources is, our friend Deb Armstrong, God bless her, on body discipline. So as you watch her video, think of what muscle groups need to engage and be active, or ones that might need to relax. And we don't really see much movement in necessarily the muscle group, right? But this conversation is stable spine, stable pelvic, while psoas, erector spinae, core muscles need an ability to hold and maintain that spine. So this is just about 4 or 5 minutes. I'll just play it and then you can.
Summer and
Oh, sorry.
up to 2% during Raymore Flanagan's Labor Day sale. Exclusive.
I can't get it.
We're just standing here on a flat. Our feet are level, one's not higher than the other. We have no edge angle. Our knees match our feet, our hips, our shoulders. We're not tipping, we're not twisting. We create edge angle. The inside leg shortens, just like we're stepping up onto a box. This inside leg's allowed to float. The inside knee is slightly forward. It definitely is higher, but I need to create angles in my body to stay balanced with that primary dominant outside foot. So it takes huge discipline with my upper body to level out the shoulders, level out the hips, to maintain and generate these angles. So that we're not like this and lose the weight on that outside ski. It's all about structure and strength and a lot of discipline. And that's what we need to learn, and that's what we're working on. So as we stand here on the flat, nice athletic position, you'll notice that these poles that are around my hips are more or less parallel with the snow surface. My feet, of course, are, my hips are, my shoulders are, meaning I'm not tipping. Okay, now we're on a side hill, and what we're looking for once again, which happens very naturally at our feet, is that our feet are parallel with the snow surface. Very naturally, our inside foot, knee, hip, and shoulder is slightly forward. It just happens naturally when I jump and land. Okay. When we're building edge angle, we want to maintain this relationship of the uphill half of our body being slightly forward of the downhill half. At the foot, at the knee, at the hip, and the shoulders. What these poles right here can show is if I get excessively twisted in my hip, if I get excessively rotated in my hip, I've lost that relationship. In my shoulders, if I counter too much, my uphill shoulder, I'm not matching that parallel relationship with my feet. That would be ideal. So right now, we're back to this really high edge angle, level shoulders, level hips. I'm not banking. I'm not twisting. I'm not excessively countered. Let's take this into some exercises now. Putting both of our hands on our outside knee, creating edge angle, and that's gonna force the relationship of our upper body along with our feet and our knees. It's subtle, but it's in the proper position as opposed to rotated or excessively countered. This right here doesn't allow that. Emphasize and highlight and use our pole as they call the torch. So our uphill hand is where we're holding the pole. Our pole is forward and it's higher than our downhill hand. Our downhill hand will just go on our hip, okay? That's emphasizing that same relationship that we just talked about with this exercise. And then my new turn, I'm going to switch hands with my pole.
Schlopey drill.
I love her. So, yeah, stable upper body, that body discipline, that core stable. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of neat to me. Has anyone seen that before?
I've
Has any,
taught it.
Many
I've taught.
times.
I haven't seen that video.
yeah, I like
Okay.
her exercises, things we can take onto the snow with our guests, yeah?
Well, this other one is foot to fore aft, foot to foot drill that she's got here too, that
Yeah.
part one. That's actually a really good one too, because what she does there is she also shows her what happens when you have one leg long and one leg short by using a stairwell.
Yeah. Mm.
And she does the same thing where she's showing just the right amount of counter.
Yep.
Because that's the problem is everybody goes, oh, we got some counter. Well, more counter must be better.
Yeah, and
That's
think of
actually
that,
not true.
the muscular skeletal structure moves easier up toward the neck, that, a lot of people, it's easier to move the shoulders, it takes a lot of discipline with those core muscles and the back muscles and strength to hold that stable upper body in a good posture and neutral. So, okay, what else am I gonna do? Oops, sorry. All right, and so I'm ending here. Oops. Sorry, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to get I don't know what's going on with, I don't know what this is. I really don't. Oh yeah, here we go. So other resources here. Skier Lab, there's a conversation about common ski injuries of the back, which is, I was amazed at how high, spinal injuries can occur in skiing. Ski Magazine has this ski fitness back exercises for skiers. And of course, Tom Gelly has a whole body alignment thing you can look at. This particular one here is on the spine. It's kind of dry, but it's very interesting with Professor Stuart McGill. Tom Gelly interviews him about his expertise as a professor and his knowledge of the spine. So if you were interested, it's about an hour long. You could watch it. And then to just reach out if you want to talk about this stuff, you can.
Cool. You guys got any questions?
Or conversation.
I have a comment.
Good, go.
My little teapot.
Short and
Do you know that drill, Joanne?
yeah,
Yes.
My Little Teapot, short and stout, yeah.
Yes.
It
use that.
actually it indicates how you take little people and get them into good habits.
Oh, I use them on teenagers to embarrass them too.
Oh well, that would be your style.
Yeah. I just want to say that was an awesome presentation, Joanne, and I
Yeah.
can see how much work you put into it, and so kudos.
Thank you. I learned a lot. It's fun. It was fun,
Yeah.
a
I
little
just-
bit more.
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to second that. That was a really solid presentation.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks.
Joanne.
Thank
Really,
you.
really good.
Well, I
So
hope you
this-
guys will go into all those other little resources and dig a little deeper, and maybe something, I love anatomy, so I can get into it, but I tried to pull or extract what I thought was most relevant to what we might see on the slope,
But
That was
just,
excellent,
I'm sorry.
Joanne, but I just want to, what I was thinking is, as we age, things get more brittle in our spine also. So when you have the diagram of the vertebrae, and there's cushions of fluid, just like there is with the meniscus, that declines and as we age. So that for anybody who's over 35, making sure that you're doing the strengthening exercises like the bow in yoga, or I throw my legs in back of me, and all of those stretches, I think are very important for us to keep ourselves supple, because we don't have the fluid between the vertebrae that we did when we were below 35. Unfortunately, that's the age of deterioration.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ilona, because in my yoga training, that's why we want to strengthen tissues in and around joints, right? So the tissues, we can generate more cells and activity. We can hydrate the cells, we can try to create space in and around the joint if we're very conscientious of how we are moving in some of our routines, which is why I teach yin yoga as well as a vinyasa and core. So there are different approaches to how we might create space in the joint, how we can hydrate those tissues around the joint. And tissues, I think they say something like 40% of tissues is made up of collagen, which is the strongest protein in the body. So we can generate into some degree, and it's this age that kills us. And so you have to maybe even be a little more vigilant as you age to keeping your tissues kind of moving and to keeping that range of motion that we have. So that'll affect how our skiing performance is inevitably, or any other form of activity we do. Like I had to give up tennis because of the compression and the pounding on these hard courts. And but skiing, I can control that, right? I can control the absorption. I can control how my body's moving on terrain. Yeah, I can control the forces to some.
Even though it's a physically very demanding sport. How
So
you ski becomes more and more efficient, the better you're able to handle
Yeah,
pressure.
yeah, exactly.
Thank God, because I have no meniscus on the right knee anymore, right? And skiing is about the only sport I can do other than bicycling and rollerblading, right? Because those are considered closed chain sports that allows me to, execute that knee movement without the constant pounding on it that happens, so.
may I add my 2 bits?
Yeah, go ahead.
Joanne, that was a really good, excellent presentation, and it nicely complemented Ilona's. And I would be your star candidate to prove that age, yoga, and biomechanics helps people enjoy skiing longer in their life, because I'm already 76 and I still want to be bumps, as Chuck knows, a bumps and steep skier. But that if you understand all what you've explained, which for me, you've done it more clearly than anyone else I've heard, it's really important, because you can do just so much exercise before you get bored. But if you do the right exercises and you maintain the focus, I aim to be a bumps and steep skier into my 80s, because you can do it if you understand what's involved.
Why only to your 80s? Why not into the
Well, I'm just
all right, Rebecca.
it's like
I don't know about Winter Park. I'm not sure I want to go too far over that. But the truth is, if you're skiing behind someone who's wonderful, why not?
Has anyone done the PSIA clinics for aging populations? There's in the East Coast, they offer it every now and then. Has anyone ever done that?
No,
I haven't yet, and I'm thinking about it.
Well, let me know, Rebecca. I'm curious to know what they say. You have, Chuck? What is?
But
So here in Central, they offer a CS1 and a SS1 and an SS2, senior specialist.
Seniors.
my guess, because I just love the sport so much, and I started under Murmur Blakesley, with whom I do not have the privilege to ski anymore. But it's about understanding your body, which you just demonstrated is critical. And understanding as you age what certain parts of your bodies need more stretching or more muscular buildup. And when the second the circulation goes, so does everything, which is sort of the, for me, the takeaway with yoga. Because if you don't keep the circulation going, nothing can regenerate.
Yeah, it's all about energy in the body, right?
Mhm.
Tissues are energy. We're all made up of energy.
But it's such a pleasure to do it right, even one time. It's like golfers getting a birdie, I guess.
Keep moving. That's what it is. Keep moving.
There you
So we
go.
don't lose our range of motion, right?
And then
So
we'll all be these stellar stars at 80 something, right?
Hey, Obermeyer was skiing at 103. I don't know if he.
wow.
So don't set yourself such low limits.
So anyway, I concur. I think this was an excellent presentation. I stuck another video in the chat because you know what? I'm kind of a contrarian every once in a while, and I like to throw in something. And what happened here? Somebody sharing something?
Oh, I stopped sharing.
Oh, okay. So just yeah, hit the little stop sharing button at the top.
Yeah, I did.
And anyway, I stuck another video from Deb Armstrong. This one's from last year. Those of you who know will know because she talks about is the pelvis, or actually she kind of uses the term hips a little bit more loose than I would like to, because honestly, what most people think are the hips are actually part of the femur bone, and they're actually a little bit higher. And we want to be able to isolate the hips as part of the pelvis, and the pelvis should be part of the upper body. And then the femurs are allowed to rotate independently of that piece. But I think she kind of drives a point home is that there's a little bit more going on in that pelvic region that's a little less understood, because we have the party line. PSI says pelvis is part of the upper body. But the fact of the matter is, in skiing, is that the upper body, the shoulders will turn more than the pelvis.
Yeah. It's
And
the
it's in
easier.
response to, again, it comes down to this response to forces and things that are happening in the ski turn. I know I'm making Laura a little very uncomfortable. I can
Why
tell
are you
that-
making me uncomfortable? I don't believe it.
because a lot of people don't really understand that. Now, what I'm going to tell you that I think that you should, and this is where Scott and Deb kind of fall at, is that the pelvis is part of the upper body. Okay, but we do need to acknowledge that the pelvis will slightly turn more than the upper body. The upper body being everything, the thoracic area and above. Okay.
Well,
Because in a lot of ways, the lumbar for me is kind of part of the pelvis because it doesn't really twist that much. The thoracic twists a lot.
maybe
Right,
what we
well-
need to say is that the pelvis sort of is both part of the upper and the lower, connects the upper and lower body.
It is, but if we start explaining it that way, then we're going to be start talking. People are going to start saying, "Well, then I should be able to rotate the pelvis with my legs a little bit," and I'm going to say, no, because the current direction where PSI is going, where we have to maintain counter through the transition, and we need to have upper body stability to promote lower body mobility, and we need to be able to steer the skis into the new turn. Those are all very dependent. Well, all of them are dependent of those common threads, but those are especially dependent on this idea that the pelvis is a stable part that allows the legs to move independently underneath it. If we start trying to rotate the pelvis, all kinds of weirdnesses happen. So we have to think of it in a way, yes, the pelvis. As a matter of fact, even Deb in that video showed a woman in a slalom turn where her shoulders were more this and her pelvis was like this. We have to acknowledge that. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that the pelvis needs to be stabilized. it has to be stabilized,
Neutral, yeah.
okay?
I'm
It's-
I'm thinking in terms of my age and my experience with seniors who stop skiing is that whole, Joanne, your comment about the sacrum and then the part of the spine that's above it, is that most people, especially if they've skied actively, have lower lumbar issues, especially if they're bump skiers. But the truth is most seniors have problems with their hips.
Mhm.
And that whole distinction of being able to hold one part stable and the other part move independently is far more difficult for seniors than it is for younger people.
It's very difficult for beginners, right? Because they've never experienced that. Hold on, Dion, I'll be right with you. But it's
Well,
the same. It's that same idea of when we get beginners, they turn as a unit. Kids turn as a unit
Oh
when they
yeah,
begin to
and
ski.
then the seniors sort of kind of because for multiple issues are
Hmm.
less able to rotate or whatever.
Yeah. And then we
Myself
run
included.
into even our L1 and L2 candidates. They tend to kind of turn the upper body before the lower body.
And that
Yep.
can have a lot to do with the muscular groups that run through the hips. So that's why
Yeah,
it's important to stretch that psoas,
it
those,
is.
all of the hip joints. There's these tiny little muscles on the outside of the hip. Gay, I don't know if you do this, but you take a band and you walk sideways. You
Huh.
fatigue in like 10 steps because the tiny little muscles in the hip there kind of are not often used. I learned that from my chiropractor. So I do that often, several times in a week, just to keep the hips, you go this way and this way with the tight band around your ankles.
No, that's interesting. You should talk to my chiropractor because he's trying to figure that one out.
All right, Dion, you had something you wanted to say.
Gets rid of hip pain. Helps
She,
Yeah,
me.
thank
I
you.
triggered Dion, so.
Trigger, trigger, trigger. I was gonna say, just as like a point of clarification, the separation of the pelvis being part of the upper body is not just to meet PSIA's adaptation or reintroduction or refocus on the common threads. When the pelvis is part of the lower body, which it is in snowboarding, because your feet are much farther apart, as it is in tele skiing for the same reason. You're turning on a very wide, long platform. So the pelvis has to turn in order to make that happen. But in alpine skiing, when our platform is our feet are mostly underneath our body, give or take a few inches depending on your aggression and your athleticism. But for the most part, especially for our students, a lot of their feet, we want them under their body rather than in front or behind their body. When you keep the pelvis as part of the upper body, it allows for a better reaction and management of the forces in the turn. When the pelvis rotates ahead of the feet, the femurs and the feet are no longer lined up in a way that makes absorbing forces easy, because it limits our flexion and extension for one. It limits our ability to use our hamstrings. It limits our ability to externally rotate our legs and internally rotate our legs, which we need all of those things in order to control our edging and our leg turning. So there is an anatomical piece in this that is more than just, well, PSIA says. It really does make a difference in how efficient you can be in your skiing, which, yeah, as you're getting older, or if you're dealing with an injury, or you're just coming through a part of the season where we've all had concrete snow for a couple of months and everybody gets sore. 20-year-olds get sore.
but being better able to manage the amount of pressure we put on ourselves, the amount of impact, helps us deal with that. So maintaining that separation between the pelvis and the femurs helps, and limiting the amount that the shoulders and the pelvis are different.
Yeah. You know, in PSI will repeatedly say hips are part of the upper body. Pelvis, you know, it's really anatomically the lower body. You know, it connects the upper and lower body. So I like your description of snowboarding on a base platform, because I don't snowboard versus 2 feet under. So thanks for commenting on that, Jim.
Well, and see the opposite, I mean, it's kind of the opposite of skiing. So the skiing, we're trying to stabilize the upper body and not using a lot of twist.
Yeah.
In snowboarding, they depend on that.
Okay.
That's how they
Manipulate the board.
snowboard. If they don't have, you know, that oppositional piece in there, they're really kind of stuck, especially for the beginners in snowboards. And she's right. When you watch telemarkers, you know, they constantly defeat their counter all the time because that pelvis has to move.
Yeah, the separation is in their lower lumbar.
It's in their lower lumbar. It has to be. So,
But
but we could take pieces from the telemark world and we could apply that to the ski world and say, hey, you know, your ability to maintain that counter piece in there before you start to tip the hips and telemarking. I think that's Jim Shaw's secret medicine, right? I mean, that's what he does really, really well, is maintains that counter throughout the turn because he does it because he's a telemark national team member, a former national team member, and that's one of the things I've always wondered how he got to that piece where he can tip really early in the turn. Well, it comes from telemarking. I firmly believe it comes from the telemarking piece. So
having actually had Jim and Jay train me in telemarking, it's your tipping actually comes so early, it's happening too soon in a way in telemarking. You're actually changing your edges as soon as you can close to the fall line. So it's much earlier. If you picture that, sorry, I don't have my camera hooked up. If you picture the general S shape or 2C shape turns that we normally have, we normally think of transition and edge change as occurring in the middle spot in between the two turns. If you can back that up the arc of the uphill turn to where it is just beginning the junction between the two C's, that's where you change edges in telemark. On the groomed.
Yes.
Moguls, everything is different in moguls. Let's be honest. But on the groomed, that's where you change edges. You're actually trying to change edges there when your feet are apart.
Well, when you're telemarking, you're sliding your uphill forward, like right as you're transitioning in the upper.
No.
Right? And then you
No.
go.
No, it's the opposite.
Not that.
No,
Okay.
it's the opposite.
When your inside foot moves back.
Oh, that's right. When your inside foot looks back, right?
And
So
I don't actually switch my feet at transition.
You don't.
In a groomed basic parallel telly turn, your feet pass each other at apex.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I see that.
So you actually switch your edges before you switch your feet.
Okay. All right.
And so it makes you really, really aware of the muscles you use to switch your edges, because you cannot do it with inclination from that position.
No, I can see that now.
You would have to move your feet.
Yeah.
Because your platform is so wide. So if anybody ever wants to try it, I highly recommend it. There's some great tele skiers out east that'll show you how to do it.
So I used to teleski like once or twice a year, but I've never had a lesson on it. Where are you, Dion?
I'm at Winter Park with
Oh,
Gumby.
you're in Winter Park. Okay, yeah. We
She's
got a
my
guy.
supervisor.
We got a guy named Chip who does Telmar skiing. I said that every year I say we gotta get out and do telly because I
Well,
do
if
like
you're anywhere near Seven Springs, J Nation will take you out.
Jane Nature.
Yeah,
Well,
there's like a ton
Chip
of
is a level
telemarketers.
3, so I'm sure he can
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He probably knows Jay.
probably.
But or if you happen to come out in Winter Park
Yeah.
at the beginning of the first weekend in March, Jim Shaw normally holds his Telefest and he brings gear for anybody who wants to try it.
So is that through PSIA or is it just his own thing?
No, it's
That's his own thing. He shows
Yeah.
up with his camper van and
Fun.
might turn into a little bit of a barbecue and a little bit of whiskey and at the end of the day, but by then you've earned it.
It will be on the Mary Jane side though. Because he tends to go to straight to C lot, and it's like, okay, you've got from here down to the super gauge to figure it out because we're going straight up to super gauge.
Yeah, but then you go down the high-low. It's not that bad.
Well, that's true. It's true.
Unless you're me, at which point you get off and you go down Edelweiss because Jim and Jay say, no, you're going this way. I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I'm reminded, when in doubt, Alpine out.
So, hey, we're getting up to 8:30. Does anybody else have any more questions on this presentation? We're not going to get to Wedge Christie's tonight, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of fading too. I've had all these
Yeah,
meetings.
no, you're coming down, right? The adrenaline's wearing out. I get it.
Now, I had a meeting before this for my college. It's like another thing, presentation I'm doing. So I had like this 2-hour meeting. So
So
Sunday turned into a work day.
So
Yeah.
you're emotionally drained. I get it.
No, I'm just tired. I'm not
So-
emotionally drained.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and I'm going to go ahead
Thanks,
and stop the recording.
Lauren, good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you,
Rebecca, thanks.
Joanne, and thanks
Yay.
everybody for putting this together.
Yeah, it was fun.
And have a great rest of the week and happy Labor Day.